Welcome into the weekly game preview show brought to you by Wise Markets. I'm your host, Mitch Gerber, and coming up on today's show, we'll hear from head coach James Franklin right there. In fact, let's go do that now. Let's hear from the head coach.
Virus or flu going around on campus. I think we had about 6 guys that non-COVID related but had fevers really over the last couple days. So that's what we're dealing with.
Before the game on Saturday, it looked like Christian was taking the number 2 rest behind Sean. Did I interpret that correctly, and is that the plan moving forward?
Yeah, that's fair at this stage right now. You know, it's still a weekly competition, but yeah, that's fair.
James, how comfortable last week about competing 365 days a year? Is the current level of competition year-round commensurate with the way the team's played this year?
I understand the question. I would need some time to kind of answer that question. This is something I've been talking about for 8 years. Hopefully we'll be able to get into specifics here soon.
Coach Franklin, we're working on a story that's going to run in a few months, so I apologize to my colleagues here who are here for more immediate reasons. It has to do with Joe Paterno and his legacy and where it stands today, and our hope is to run it 10 years after his passing. And I'm just wondering if you'd be willing to share with us your thoughts on Joe Paterno and what his legacy means today to Penn State.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about Rutgers this week, this game. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be more than happy to discuss them with you.
James, was Mike Miranda among the guys who had illness, or I know he left the game early on Saturday?
Yes, sir.
James, how prepared are you to make adjustments on the O-line if you have to, replace some of these guys? Because we haven't seen a lot of the backups other than Effner.
Yep. Yeah, Effner's played a decent amount. Landon's got a bunch of reps this week. So we'll just kind of see. But yeah, Landon and Effner are the 2 guys that I think are the closest to being able to contribute and help. But we'll see how kind of the week plays out. Effner's obviously played multiple positions and done a bunch of things for us, but we may need more. We may need more. So Landon's also a guy who's a swing guy who's taking reps this week at guard and at tackle. So we'll see how that plays out.
You guys have put Kalen King in some big situations. What do you think about his development so far this year?
Yeah, very pleased with him. A lot of guys you can tell, the first time they get out there, they're maybe a little nervous or the moment's kind of big for them. I never feel that way with Kalen. He's got tremendous confidence in himself. He's played a decent amount already this year. So I could see his rep count continue to go up as the season goes on.
Was he banged up down the stretch? Is that why Kalen was on at the end? Or
Yes, correct.
Kalen was out there on a pretty big play where it looked like he ran into Daquan. How does he overcome that, or how has he dealt with that? Because that's probably a tough thing for a kid to deal with.
Yeah, I would say, it probably is a little bit different if you in a one-on-one situation. In that situation, obviously they ran a pick play, and 2 of our guys ran into each other trying to weave their way through the traffic. Still frustrating, still disappointing, all those types of things. But I don't think it's going to affect his confidence. He's a very confident guy.
James, I'd say it's fair across the country that the first day of practice every season, the goal is college football playoffs, national championship. Now that goal has mathematically been removed, has that affected the morale in the locker room? And how do you keep a bunch of kids really dialed and focused in on, like you said, 1-0?
Yeah, I don't know if that is the goal and the focus across the country. I think at a handful of institutions, that is. I think at probably another group of institutions, that's the expectation. But yeah, I think that's what's changed with the college football playoff. It's made it very different. It's made the regular season in college football has always been very, very important. I think this has magnified that even more so. So yeah, it does. It creates some challenges. You see over the last number of years, you see a lot of programs and schools where guys are opting out of bowl games and things like that. We've been pretty fortunate, with those types of things. These guys got a lot of people in their ears with the change in policy from the NFL and from the NCAA. the agents can talk to our guys from the time they're a freshman and make recommendations on what they should and shouldn't do. It's complicated. It's much more complicated than it's ever been. There's no doubt about that.
You mentioned another group of institutions, that's their goal, and I don't know if you excluded yourself at this particular moment in that group of institutions. What is the goal right now, and how does that mesh with sort of the longer term plans that you have?
Yep. Yeah, I think we're a part of those institutions, right? Where we've done it before at a very different time in college football, but we've done it before. That is the expectation, and that is the mentality. I think that is more than fair. So for us, I think you guys know I try to keep our players and our program focused on being the best we possibly can be today, and trying to be 1-0 each week to try to keep our preparation and our approach consistent from week to week, no matter the outcome. That's easier said than done, as you know. But I think that helps. That helps manage some of those things. But yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge I think right now in college football. I think that's the discussions that we've been having, and you guys have been asking me a lot of questions about the competition 365 days a year. This isn't the first time I've been talking about those things. I remember standing out on that turf long time ago when I first got here, talking to you guys about that, using the We Are Penn State as the backdrop, talking about the things that we're going to have to do year round to make that a reasonable option, a reasonable expectation. So keep chopping wood and keep doing the things we got to do to be successful.
Coach, respectfully, you just addressed questions that aren't about Rutgers in this week. I'm just curious, would you be willing to sit down with us and talk about Coach Paterno and his legacy at a future date? Or is it just that you're not willing to do it here in this setting?
Yeah, what we're talking about right now is the current program and what's going on. The game against Rutgers this week and the things that are affecting our program right now.
Would you be willing to sit down and talk with us about it at some point in the future?
As we indicated, you can go through our office to see if we can that's
James, with senior day coming up, how would you evaluate Jaquan's tenure with the program, especially given the things he took to get to this point with Lackawanna, as well as the
Yeah, I'm super proud of him. He's done a great job in every aspect that we've asked him to do, academically, athletically, socially. His family's been a big part of it, being from Pittsburgh. Obviously, the success we've had out of Lackawanna has factored into it as well. So I'm really proud of him. I'm really proud of him, and I think he's doing great, and I think he's putting himself in position to have a very bright future after leaving Penn State.
Can you talk about that relationship with Lackawanna and maybe explain how that recruiting might not be the right word in this context, but how that relationship that you guys have seemed to develop over the past few years?
Yeah, it's really been since we got here. There wasn't a great history of Penn State recruiting it. We looked at it as a significant advantage having a junior college in the state of Pennsylvania. The number of junior colleges have declined nationally, so it was an opportunity for us to keep some kids in the region that maybe had to take a different path to still come to Penn State. It's worked out really well, I think, for both institutions, and the guys are doing extremely well. So, obviously, whenever you get a kid from a certain school or a certain region and he has success, it obviously opens up opportunities for the future.
James, when a veteran player makes a transition this late in their career, like Jesse Luketa, how does that maybe complicate the process of what he faces in the next month or so?
I'm sorry, one more time?
When a veteran player, year number 4, like Luketa, makes the transition to a new position and flourishes there, but is still new there, how does it maybe complicate his situation as a senior, junior, whatever you want to call him right now at the NCAA?
Yeah, I don't think it really complicates it. I think it really, it's probably no different than any other industry, right? The more things that you can do and the more value you can bring, to the institution or the team you're playing for, the better. No different in your guys' field as well. So I think the fact that Jesse can play Mike linebacker and thrive as an inside linebacker and then play defensive end, I think that helps people project him, whether it's a 3-4 outside linebacker or whether it's an inside linebacker, maybe even in a 3-4 system as well. So I think it helps him, and I know it helps us.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like always, guys, you know, any of these things that come up, if we're known ahead of time, we tell you what we can cover and what we can't, which I think we did ahead of time, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
That is head coach James Franklin addressing the local media following Wednesday's practice, as we now welcome in snapper Chris Stoll to the Wise Markets game preview show. And Chris, you're going to get set to take on Rutgers for the final home game of the 2021 season inside Beaver Stadium right behind you. What are you looking forward to most come Saturday's matchup?
I'm just looking forward to how we bounce back. You know, we've had a tough game stretch here, and I think our guys are really going to rally around our leadership. I think we're going to show the world that we can start fast and go 1-0.
And what does it mean to everybody across the board to send the seniors out of the stadium the right way?
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Those guys have done a lot for our program, not only on the field but off the field as well, and especially mentoring the younger guys. So I think sending them out on a high note in Beaver Stadium would be perfect.
What is unique about a senior day for those that aren't in the locker room? And obviously it will be the last time that those seniors take the field, walk outside of that tunnel to a sea of 107,000 people.
Yeah, I remember when Blake Gillikin was going through his senior day, he was just a lot of emotions hit him that normally don't hit you unless it's a whiteout or something really significant, and it's just kind of, you don't really expect it. I think his senior day was against Maryland, I believe, or maybe it was Rutgers again, but he was just so engaged with the crowd. Like I know he took a couple laps after the game just to say thank you to everyone, and I think that really hit him hard, and I think it's going to hit a couple guys hard on Saturday too.
During the course of the week, just guesstimate, how many snaps do you think you make during the course of the week between placements and punts? Because there's a lot of time inside. They'll be out here. You guys will be in Haluba. We don't see it.
It's probably about 100 a day, so
100 a day.
700 a week.
700
give or take a few.
But there's a precision to it as to where the laces need to be, as to which hip it needs to be on. How long did it take you to perfect that? Because it's not just, laces, but for punter's got to be on the hip. And if it's Brad King, it's got to be on this hip.
Right. See, I've been snapping since my sophomore year of high school. I'd say it probably took me a good 3 or 4 years from that point. In the past probably 2 or 3 years, I've really kind of honed it in and become the best as what I can.
What's the one thing from a technique standpoint that people don't realize that it is difficult and it's not just I'm going to chuck a football through my legs and get it back there?
Yeah, I think that would be the blocking aspect of snapping. Obviously, we have a bunch of guys who will just try to snap, and they're not half bad at it. But I'll snap and block and try to pick up a guy in the A gap, in the right or left A gap, or going down and cover 40 yards at a full sprint. So I think just really the blocking aspect is the one thing that people might not be familiar with, and how special it is to be able to do that.
Now, during the course of the time, and Mitch and I are both out on the golf course, but when I see you out there, but I'll see it out there. It's with Jordan Stout, it's with Jake Pinnaker. Which brings to me, how tight is this group? Because it seems like you do a lot off the field as well.
Yeah, we're our buddies. Jordan's my roommate. I'm going to be living with Jake next year, so it's just kind of, we're always together, especially camp. Obviously, the specialists will kind of hone in their group, and while everyone's working hard out there, we're working hard on the inside and kind of out of the view of the public. But definitely, especially in my class, me and Jordan and Brad and Jake, I think we're all super close. We've become brothers basically in the past 4 years.
Who's got the best golf game?
Oh,
me.
You.
Yes. No, I can tell you right now. I've seen it. He is.
Chris Stoll, the best golfer out of the group.
No, I mean, he can. I would say Stout second.
Depends on the day.
Yeah, because Pinnaker can hit.
Pinnaker's not bad.
Pinnaker's
when he
not
can hit
bad.
It,
right. And then then there's Miranda. I mean, it's like Happy Gilmore. He winds up, man.
it's really bad.
Chris, appreciates you stopping by on the Wise Markets preview show, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, guys.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
That's Chris Stoll, snapper for Penn State University. Some insight there into what makes a successful snap. Obviously not just as easy as chucking it through your legs. You got to be able to make the blocks as well.
Not only make the blocks, but there's a time on it, too. I mean, there's a certain time that they have to hit for the entire precision of the operation, because you've got guys flying off the edge or, of course, coming up the middle, but especially flying off the edge. If he's slow on that snap, it gives them that extra step to get in there and maybe get a hand on it. If he hits the time, and there's a certain stopwatch time they've got to hit, I mean, there's a lot. And then you got to put the laces in the right spot. Or if it's punter, you got to put a right-footed punter. It's got to be on the right hip. If it's Brad King, who's left-footed, that's why I brought up Brad King, by the way. He's left-footed. you got to put it here. And there's so much precision to this, and a guy like him, we never talk about him for good reason, okay, because he's making snaps.
Well, speaking of time, kickoff this weekend is at noon Eastern time inside Beaver Stadium between Penn State and Rutgers. If you're not going to be in attendance, it'll be on the Big Ten Network, but encourage everybody that can make it to come send off the seniors as a part of Senior Day and the Military Appreciation Game, which will have a flyover, I believe, too, so that'd be pretty cool.
It'll be really cool, and I hope the students, I know that it's a weekend to start getting away. Hopefully you'll stick around to salute these guys for everything they've done. It gives you also one last chance this season to be in Beaver Stadium. Then you can go home. The game's at noon. You go home after the game.
One last chance to welcome the team in during team arrival as well. That's always a cool event if you've never participated in that for this Penn State football program. So be sure to come to team arrival as they'll come to the stadium about 2.5 hours before kickoff, which once again is noon Eastern on BTN. All right, Steve, this matchup between Penn State and Rutgers, what's the X factor in your opinion?
Well, I mean, when you look at Rutgers, they're good at running the football, and Vedral, the quarterback, might be the best running quarterback. Now, that's Isaiah Pacheco. Good, tough, hard runner scoring against Indiana last week. They've been blown out of games, and then last week they blew Indiana out. But Pacheco's really good. I think Vedral's a very good running quarterback. Their pass game has been okay. This is Young, the second team running back, taking it in. You always do this every week, see if I actually know who these people are. All right. And then you can see here, that's Mamana guy. He's the third guy that they have. Now, defense, and here's the offense again. But notice, run. They had 50 runs last week against Indiana. 50. Only threw the ball 17 times. So, I mean, that's the X factor. Can you keep control on their running game? And they have gone for it on fourth down more than any team in the Big Ten this season. So you have to look at every single series as, okay, it's not just a 3-and-out quote, we need a 4-and-out.
We always talk about how can Penn State start fast offensively. So when it flips to the other side of the ball, what challenges does Rutgers present on the defensive side?
Well, on the defensive side, last week they decided to go with a 4-2-5 look. Their three linebackers were out. Now, he didn't play last week. But they went 4-2-5. Powell, reserve linebacker, freshman, came in. And there's Max Melton, has 3 interceptions this season. It's Bo's brother, and he leads them in interceptions. And there's Avery again, Trey Avery. And you just see last week they had one takeaway after another. There's a forced fumble right there, fall on it there, and that's what they did. They were able to get points off of takeaways last week. There's a safety that they were able to get early in the season. But it's a team that has tried to thrive on takeaways this year, but you can move the football on them. But it was interesting. Instead of going 4-3 last week, they went 4-2-5. They started with 5 guys in the secondary, and they only gave up 3 points after giving up 52 to Wisconsin the week before.
Well, as they turn the lights out right behind us right now, that means it's time for us to go home, but we can't end this preview show without our favorite segment for a little Beaver Stadium the last time the 2021 season. Why don't you get us started?
I think it's really important that if you're going to bring something in the stadium, it should be in a clear bag, don't you?
I agree.
I do. So don't forget, you're used to it by now, clear bag policy, and then you can put it in there. That way everybody can see as you go in. And don't forget, please don't forget to download your tickets. Do it tonight while you're thinking of it. Just take care of that. If you need to transfer, just take care of it now. That way you're not doing anything last second. You know what? I think we got to park the car too. So we parked the car as well. And all the parking lots all set up with all the zones. You know how to get in and out. And I think by now you're finding that this parking plan is terrific in terms of ease in and ease out. And just check your pass and make sure whether it has S, E, N, or W on it. And then you go from there.
That was pretty much a bases loaded situation, bottom of the 9th right there, and Steve Jones just went grand slam on it. Knocked it out of the park.
Either that or, it was a bunt.
Yeah, one way or the other.
I dropped one down.
Once again, kickoff is set for noon Eastern on the Big Ten Network, or as always, you can listen to Steve Jones, Jack Ham and Company on the Penn State Sports Network. Until Saturday, have a great evening.
This is the day. We will know a whole lot by the time the dust settles.
Are you ready for Penn State football?
And welcome back to Happy Valley.
everything matters. That's where we win right here. Not on the field.
But where we want to be at the end of the season starts with our mentality and our attention to detail today.